Hi, this video is part of my complete Helm course. The link is in the description of this video, so make sure to give a thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any updates, subscribe to the channel. That being said, let's get started. Let's now start integrating some features of Go templating into our chart to make it more flexible and more customizable. The first thing we need to do is to start defining a couple of values here in our values.yaml file. So there are three things we would like to customize. The first one will be the replica count. We would like to allow our users to set a specific replica count. The second one is the image, both name and tag. And then we also would like to customize the service type and port. As we add values to our values.yaml file, it's very important that we keep it well documented. This will help not only our users to understand what is the goal of each of the parameters of each of the customization values, but also us and the development team in the long term as this file grows bigger and bigger to support more features. So we will start allowing our users to pass the number of replicas by using the replica count parameter. We're going to set this to 1. And let's now add some documentation here. So this is a parameter, and the name here, replica count, that's just the name of our parameter. And then we'll have here, that's going to be the number of Nginx replicas to deploy. Now that we have created the replica count here, we can leverage this in our deployment.yaml by interpolating the value here coming from the .values object. And then from the .values object, we have access to all the keys here within the values.yaml file. So I'm going to say .values.replica count, like so. And then this will interpolate the value whenever we generate our template. Let's save this here. Let's come back to the terminal. And I just want to show you what's going to happen when we run the Helm template. So Helm template, and then pass the folder of our. And as you can see here, the value is interpolated and we get 1 back. If we come back to values.yaml and we change this to 3 and we save the file and we regenerate our templates, then we will see that now the replica's value is coming as 3. That's great. So we were able to customize our first value. Well, that's already an achievement. So let's go now to the next section here, and that would be settings for Nginx image. And now we can either create an object where we're going to have image like so, and then we're going to have here the name and the tag, or we can also create just at the same level here image name and image tag. I'm just going to follow with the object one here because I find it keeps things a little bit more grouped and organized. So let's remove this option here. And now we would like to add 2 parameters here. So I'm going to say add param, and that's going to be image.name. That's going to be the Nginx image to use, image name to use. And then we're going to have here another parameter. That's going to be param image.tag, Nginx image tag to use. We will now take the values that we have in our deployment. So that's Nginx for the image name. Let's copy this and let's paste it in our values.yaml. Let's then copy the image tag from here and let's paste also in our tag here. We can also wrap this in double quotes to make sure it's treated as a string. So let's come now to our image here, to our container actually, and let's replace that with information coming from our values file. So let's open now here double quotes, and then once again the image must be a string. That's why I'm taking some additional safety measures here. That's going to be .values, but as you can see, when we use the double quotes, it doesn't autocomplete. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to wrap afterwards. So that's going to be .values.image.name. And the colon here will then receive afterwards the .values.image.tag. Right, and as you can see here, it doesn't autocomplete. So the Helm IntelliSense is not like 100% foolproof. Just bear with it because it does add quite a few nice features. So we have the values image name and the values image tag here. And we can always confirm that this is valid by coming here to our terminal and re-rendering our template. As you can see here, what is output is a valid image tag. So we are good to go. The third change I would like to make configurable here is the service type and port. So let's add once again new comments. Here I'm just going to add an empty line here just for readability purposes. And let's add now here, that's going to be settings for Nginx service. So we're going to have here once again another empty line, and then we will have two parameters. The first one will be service.type, and that's going to be, let's just add here the type of service in front of the Nginx containers, or actually we can say here Nginx pods. And then we'll also have here another parameter, service.port, the port where the service is receiving requests. Right, so now here just going to be a simple default value for our Nginx configuration. So we're going to add here service, and the type for us, the default will be cluster IP, and the port here will be port 80. Let's then save this here, and let's now come to our service.yaml file, and let's replace here where we have cluster IP hard-coded. We're going to say .values.service.type, like so. And then where we have port 80 hard-coded, we'll simply say .values.service.port. And the same thing here for the target port. Great. So now that I'm looking here, I'm also thinking, okay, it might not be the case that the port and the target port will always be the same. So we can also enable this configuration here in our values.yaml. We could also add a target port here to allow our users to set a custom target port. However, we can actually abstract that behind another configuration. So let's go up a little bit here, and I'm going to add another section, and we're just going to say here Nginx container ports. And now here we're going to have a parameter. So that's going to be add param container ports, like so, and then .http. And we're just going to allow for this to be set by the user. So if we have here container ports, and then we're going to have the HTTP here, that's going to be port 80. That's where Nginx is listening for requests. And now we can actually use this value here within both our deployment and our service. So if we come to our deployment and we change here our container port to be coming here from the .values.container port and I think that's container ports or port, I don't remember, container ports. Yes, that's correct. So values.container ports.http. That's going to be the container port we will advertise. And then we can reference this here in our target port as well. The difference between port and target port here is that the port is the port where the service is actually listening or receiving the request. And the target port is the port where our containers, our Nginx containers are actually listening and receiving requests. So now we allow the users to configure the container port here not via the target port of a service, but rather more generally via the HTTP option of our container ports. So this configuration here is used in two places, both in the deployment to expose a port here, but also in the service to set the target port. Perfect. So now let's here come to our values.yaml. We can remove the comments here from the top. Let's then save this file, and let's now come back to the terminal here and let's regenerate our templates. As you can see here, we got all the configurations correct. The container port is port 80, and everything is also set correctly to our service. That's great. So congratulations on defining actually several values here. Hopefully this also shows that creating these values and using them in our Helm templates, it's no rocket science, at least not yet, right? We're not using any advanced templating functionality here, but the idea of taking a value and adding it to our templates is as straightforward as defining it in the values.yaml file and then referencing it via the .values top level object, and then using whatever value we wish to retrieve. Before we move forward, let's take a short break and I'll see you in the next lecture.